Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. Welcome back to a Division 2 video, and the patch notes for Phase 2 are here, and let's fly through them. We are going over the Dark Zone changes, PvP environment improvements, modifiers, escalation, new weapons, gears and talents, additional updates, and some things that only happen on the PTS. Starting with the Dark Zones, for PTS Phase 2, the Dark Zone structure will resolve around 3 rotating rule sets: Classic, Toxic, and Balanced Dark Zones. This phase mainly is about seeing how each Dark Zone variant feels, if the rules are clear and the reward feels worth it, how the updated weapons and gear affect PvP, and how the overall experience comes together. The PvP balance pass applies across all PvP environments, including conflict and all Dark Zone variants. More details are available in the global PvP balance section below. A Dark Zone vendor overhaul has also been added with updated inventory, new caches, and rebalanced DZ currency. If we look at the Dark Zone rotations, we have a couple of different variants. We have the Classic Dark Zone that will be standard PvEVP risk versus reward gameplay. Rogue Protocol will be active, SHD and Expertise are active, and the global PvP balance is active as well. For the Toxic Dark Zone, the seasonal PvE survival and cooperation mode will have a rogue protocol that will be disabled. So that means that you cannot go rogue on other agents. The SHD and Expertise will still be active, and the global PvP balance for this will be active as well. Even though we're playing PvE, there will still be a PvP balance active within the Dark Zones. Then, for the last one, we have our Balanced Dark Zone, competitive skill-based PvPvE. Rogue Protocol is active, so you can go rogue on other agents. The SHD and the Expertise are disabled for this, and that is a great thing if you ask me, especially if you want to keep it competitive. And then, of course, we have the global PvP balance for that active as well. So now going over the different variants, as we already saw, we have a Classic Dark Zone. The Classic Dark Zone remains the baseline PvPvE experience with normalization, SHD watch, expertise progression, rogue protocols, and the periodic invasion active. Then, if we scroll down, we have the Toxic Dark Zone, and this has a little bit more of an explanation, as the Toxic Dark Zone will be the PvE Dark Zone. The Toxic Dark Zone remains a seasonal PvE-focused variant with the rogue protocols and friendly fire disabled. Toxicity builds over time and can be managed through searched active modifiers, safe houses, or by leaving the zone. Even though the Toxic Dark Zone is PvE focused, it's still a part of the wider Dark Zone experience. Global PvP balance also applies here, so the players can create builds around the same PvP rule set used in the other Dark Zones. The goal is to make a jump between PvE and PvP variants feel less abrupt without requiring a full build rethink. And I think that is a W change. We already talked about it in a previous video that this is their intention, trying to get more people from the PvE side to PvP, especially within the Dark Zones. For Phase 2, there are several changes made. The Phase 2 is going on right now that we can test on the PC side of things. Landmark chests now drop sample canisters as contaminated cache items. These will work like regular contaminated items and must be extracted. Calling the extraction helicopter in a Toxic Dark Zone now requires a stabilization agent, which has a 33% chance to drop from a landmark chest. Okay, interesting. So we cannot just always get out of the Dark Zone right now. And that kind of reminds me of survival. We also had to get the antiviral out of the DZ. And I'm not too mad about it. Toxicity no longer resets when entering a Dark Zone safe house. Instead, the current toxicity value is frozen while inside. Toxicity debuffs have been reduced. The Toxic Dark Zone Hunter difficulty has been adjusted. The Toxic Dark Zone Hunters now guaranteed 1 exotic component each and have a dedicated 2% chance to drop an Eagle Bearer or a Ravenous. Oh wow, let's freaking go. That extra exotic component already comes in clutch, and now we have a dedicated 2% chance to get an Eagle Bearer and a Ravenous from that. Damn, I like that change. I like that change a lot. And then the last one, sample canister gains and cost have been adjusted. So there are a bunch of changes in the PvE Toxic Dark Zone. If we scroll down to the Balanced Dark Zone, the Balanced Dark Zone remains the competitive PvPvE variant using high-level normalization based on conflict rule set. SHD Watch and Expertise are disabled. Deconstructing dropped contaminated items grants double the Dark Zone currency. And now we're getting to the overhaul of the Dark Zone vendor. And this is quite interesting. Dark Zone vendors have been adjusted for Phase 2 of the PTS with updated inventories, new utility and progression caches, and rebalanced DZ currency costs. Following Phase 1 feedback, we have reduced the cost of the new vendor caches. DZ East recalibration cache costs only 40, and optimization cache will only set you back 60. DZ West, and this is the most important one, exotic component cache will set you back 120, but it will give you 4 exotic components out of that, and that is a huge W. Unfortunately, we cannot keep our exotic component caches that we can get throughout stretch goals right now, as these will be different caches. As this was the reaction of the official Twitter handle on Twitter, so unfortunately we cannot stack up the exotic caches. Then the reconstructed cache went to 180 DZ credits. For the DZ South we have the prototype core cache to 125 and a prototype normal cache to 260 that has a higher chance for better or even perfect stats. They lowered the DZ credits a lot, and I think this definitely invites more people to grind that DZ on the PvE side or on the PvPvE side. And let me zoom out one tick and let me show you the entire list of the upgraded vendors. I won't go through everything, but as you can see right now, a lot has changed. Especially the most important one will be the 4 exotic components that will be in our exotic component cache. I think that is the biggest W that we see in this. We then have a few PvP environment improvements. The Dark Zone entry and checkpoint updates introduced in Phase 1 remain a part of Phase 2 test. So the first one will be the checkpoint turret damage scaling to help prevent checkpoint containment. Entrance turns now deal an additional direct health damage to the hostile agents within range. And the turns inflict an additional 4% direct health damage on top of their standard base values. So they're trying to make sure that there's not that much door camping going on anymore, as they will make these turns more powerful. Entry invulnerability window. Agents receive a 5-second invulnerability window immediately after entering the Dark Zone. So whenever you step into the Dark Zone, you cannot get taken out for at least 5 seconds. This gives the player a short moment to load in, check their surroundings and decide their next move before taking damage. The invulnerability ends early if the player moves or fires their weapon. And these, I think, are definitely good changes to combat the spawn campers, the door campers, just taking you out while you just step into the zone. Then we will have some global PvP balance. This first balance pass focuses on currently active weapon and gear talents across conflict and all Dark Zone variants. The goal is to reduce mandatory must-pick options and give more builds the chance to compete. This is a part of a wider multi-phase effort. Future updates are planned to look at skills, attributes, status effects, and other PvP areas. Following the Phase 1 feedback, we made another pass on the PvP balance list, and this includes some further tuning for damage talents, status-based talents, armor repair, and bonus armor option, support focus builds, etc. We also revisited a few specific items like Striker, Cavalier, Core Strength, Nego, Ongoing, the Bighorn, the Striga, the Backfire, the Pestilence, and many, many more. The full list we can find in this dedicated balance list. I will link it in the description down below if you want to go over it, because it is a lot. They changed over 350 plus talents for weapons and or gear, so I am definitely not going over this full list. A little note, when reviewing these changes, please look at the wider PvP balance picture rather than focusing on one talent in isolation. Some changes may look significant on their own, but they are a part of a broader effort. We then have a couple of modifier changes. I won't read through everything, but as you can see, especially the active and the hostile modifier values have been adjusted across multiple areas, and that was definitely needed. And then for Escalation, several rewards and economy updates have been made for Phase 2. Rewards. Escalation completion rewards now grant +1 exotic component for each escalation tier starting at Tier 5. So that means that Tier 5 will now start with 1 exotic component. Tier 6 and Tier 7 will give you now 2 exotic components. Tier 8 and Tier 9 will now give you 3 exotic components, where Tier 10 will give you 4. Prototype targeted loot drops have been added back to the Escalation chest, what is a huge W. I'm glad that they're doing this, so from next season, or if you're playing the PTS right now, we can open up those caches to have a chance to get a prototype drop out of it. I'm so glad that they are reverting this. And then of course the tokens. Yes, finally, us as the leaders will get blessed, as the escalation token economy has been adjusted to better reward group leaders and make an overall flow less punishing. And as you can see now, the leader reward will be a lot more now, as this will be 22 for the leader versus 11 for the group. What would always been the case, but I'm glad that they adjusting it a little bit. As you can see, they adjusted the cost as well. The tier 10 was 87 if I'm not mistaken. It's now 80. It will give the leader a total 102 coins. He paid 80. He's getting 22 for his own, and then the rest of the group, because they're not paying anything, will receive 11. So I think this is already a great change, and this might also change the opinion about being leader. At the moment, no one wants to be leader, and in the future, believe me, everyone wants to be leader, and I think this is a great change. Then we have the Requisition. Vendor Escalation Requisition vendor prices have been updated to match the new token balance. Random prototype cache 10 escalation tokens. Gear prototype cache 20, and the weapon prototype cache 20 as well, so they doubled. And I do not think that that is the best way to do, because if we scroll back, they can say that they changed it, but it doesn't get more. We are not getting that much more profit out of it. The only thing, in my humble opinion, that changed, that the leader profits more from it right now. But it doesn't show that much more tokens. It got a little bit less expensive, but still, in my humble opinion, doubling those tokens for the requisition vendor is not the play. But again, we are on the PTS still, so things are still subject to change. I was already not buying that many caches, but this is just way too expensive. I am definitely not picking up those caches for these prices. Then, if we scroll down a little bit more, we will have our gear, weapons, and talents. And if we look at that list, you see a couple of changes. The biggest change for me is that the talent of the Caduceus has been upped. As we talked about yesterday in that video, it went from 1.5% of hits damage dealt to 2%, and we got 40 rounds instead of the 20 rounds within the magazine. We did a whole breakdown video yesterday about it already, so let me scroll a little further. There's a new underboss exotic SMG that will also be in the PTS Phase 2, and its PTS nodes version had no mods. It will now have an optical mod providing 50% critical hit chance. So yes, we will get another exotic AR, and this is an exotic Tommy gun. So this is definitely gonna be a very interesting gun. Then we have some additional updates as well. The prototype core cost upgrading prototype augments have been increased. Maxing out one item now costs 46 prototype cores, and I don't understand it at all, to be very honest with you. The prototype cores are the real endgame. You have to have so much to reroll to upgrade, and now they're upgrading it even more. I don't think that this is the correct play, but maybe I am not seeing something. Hit me up in the comments down below what you think about this. And then we have a retaliation. A new threat may now ambush you during retaliation. Stay alert. Oh, we got a new threat as well within the retaliations. I will definitely run a couple retaliations and try to find out who this new threat is. If I would have to guess, it will probably be an elite squad from the hyenas, as this new season is all about the hyenas. And then at the end they talk about PTS only. Those are the caches and everything that we can unlock, how to get everything that's new, how we can test it, and of course a couple known issues within the PTS at the moment. But that's pretty much it. These were all the patch notes. I think there are a bunch of good changes, but I don't really understand upping the prices of the caches within the vendor and or upping the cost for upgrading your prototype augments. But overall, I think there are some W changes, especially giving us that 4 exotic components instead of that 1, as everyone and their dog is always looking for exotic components. Huge W. Hit me up in the comments down below what you like about these changes or what you dislike about these changes. I would love to hear your opinion. Always keep it as constructive criticism. But that's it. Thank you very much for sticking until the end. Like the video if you liked the video or helped you out in any way or form. If you're new here and or you want to be updated about the Division 2, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And I will see you in the next one. Pure Prime out.